Although DC and Marvel both primarily deal with superheroes, villains, mutants, metahumans, aliens, gods, etc., there are still plenty of glaring differences between the two. Whether it be how serious people treat their secret identities or the overarching dichotomy between characters, this list will highlight the biggest differences between Marvel and DC superhero identities. Let's go! Secret identities. Every major hero that has ever existed, at one point or another, had or has an alter ego and or secret identity. In the DC universe, secret identities are treated much more important than in Marvel, with most primary characters keeping the two sides of their lives separate. Even most heroes and villains don't know the true identities of their allies and rivals. Well, I guess Superman just sort of takes his glasses off or whatever, but people still don't know who he is. In DC Comics, there are far more story arcs built around new characters finding out the secret identities of other characters, which is a plot thread that isn't as prominent in Marvel. Open identities. In Marvel, people's identities being out in the open all willy-nilly is sort of the norm. Everyone knows that Captain America is Steve Rogers and Iron Man is Tony Stark. All of the X-Men are just themselves without even wearing masks for the most part. And even the one whose secret identity was a focal point revealed himself during Civil War, that being Spider-Man. Marvel has ensured that its characters' identities are a key part of the narrative and storylines. Monikers. Monikers are often used slightly differently in DC compared to Marvel. In the DC universe, each hero has their own distinct name, a specific superhero moniker, and not a title that represents something larger, excluding the Green Lantern, that is. Marvel uses multiple monikers to define specific characters. Someone becomes the Ghost Rider, people host the Phoenix, and Stephen Strange learns to be the Sorcerer Supreme. Although those names can be attributed to individual heroes, the vast majority aren't. Calling someone Nova could allude to more than one character, whereas mentioning Wonder Woman leaves no confusion about who you're talking about. Locations. In DC, a superhero's identity is often built into a location on Earth or within the universe, and for the most part, these places are all fictional. In Marvel, everyone's from somewhere in New York. I kid, of course, but it doesn't make what I'm saying any less true. The Flash is from Central City, Superman is from Metropolis, and the Bat family are all relegated to Gotham for the most part. These fictional landscapes are key to fleshing out the tone of a hero. Although there are some fictional locations in Marvel, most of them are fantastical and otherworldly. And speaking of worldly, most Marvel heroes operate on a global scale. Names. It's almost as though in Marvel, the superhero name itself represents much more than the person, the symbol, and the costume. Those superhero codenames or identities seemingly get passed on with ease. Plus, with all of the multiverse stuff, they really have taken it kinda far. There are like 7,000 different people who use the name Spider-Man, and titles like Black Panther, Captain America, and Ant-Man have been passed around numerous times. Marvel will even have two people using the same name at the same time. Like there's been two Hawkeyes and two Wolverines simultaneously. Yes, there are multiverses and other Earths in the DC universe, but for the vast majority of the time, Bruce Wayne is Batman, Clark Kent is Superman, and so on and so forth. Public responsibilities. With the identity of most DC heroes being hidden, there seems to be less of a responsibility for said heroes to answer to public uproar. The heroes of Marvel are often depicted as if they're delivering a public service. A lot of these heroes have even been registered and used by the government, and they are forced to answer to organizations like S.H.I.E.L.D. The Superhuman Registration Act and underage heroes being outlawed are two great examples of that. In DC, if laws like these were passed, most of these heroes would just ignore them and go about their lives as usual because nobody knows who 90% of them even are. Civilians. In the DC universe, there's a massive contract between civilians and heroes, whereas in Marvel, there's a closer relationship between the two sides. For DC, there are primary characters that will forever fill in a civilian role. Jim Gordon and Lois Lane are perfect examples of that. I mean, they might get involved and kidnapped from time to time, but we know that Jim Gordon is always going to be an authority figure, and Lois Lane is always going to be a reporter. In Marvel, however, it seems like there's a literal obsession with seeing civilians eventually having to suit up themselves. Rick Jones and Amadeus Cho both became Hulks. Characters like Black Widow, Hawkeye, and Nick Fury are presented as being at a superhuman level, and can pretty much stand toe-to-toe with any being they encounter. Sidekicks. Sidekicks really aren't a thing in Marvel like they are in DC. Sure, Captain America had Bucky Barnes by his side for a little while, but even that was broken up and the latter became his own hero. In DC, being a sidekick has been a crucial part of a great handful of characters' identities. Batman and Robin, The Flash and Kid Flash, Green Arrow and Red Arrow. All of these duos have been just as important to character development as they have been for the future of DC as a whole. There have been multiple Robins, some going on to become heroes themselves. Kid Flash is Wally West, who not only helped start the Teen Titans, but also became the Flash. And Red Arrow, well, he's just Red Arrow. Teams. In the Marvel Universe, a lot of characters base part of their identities on whatever superhero team they're a part of. The good guy mutants are typically X-Men, the metahumans are all Avengers, the Inhumans are the Inhumans. You get my point. DC heroes don't identify in teams quite the same way. The Justice League and Teen Titans are powerful forces, but every member was or is primarily a solo act first. There aren't many heroes who are viewed as completely solo dolo in Marvel. Even the exceptions like Spider-Man have officially joined the Avengers and Fantastic Four over the years. And there you have it. Did we leave any out? Tell us in the comment section below. And be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons so you don't miss any comparative comic content.